This week, we're actually going to be using SQL Server, and the software that we use to access the databases is SQL Server Management Studio, which is typically called SSMS. So you should have installed last week SQL Server, and after you installed that, you should have installed SSMS. And so there's two chapters that we're going to cover this week. Chapter 2 basically is how to use SSMS. Chapter 3 teaches you how to do a select query. And this is the type of query we're going to be using all semester long. Chapter 2 covers how to select and display data from a single table. And then Chapter 4, which we're going to cover next week, gets into how to select columns from multiple tables. So we're actually going to be using the select command for a couple weeks. So make sure you've read through chapters 2 and 3, and then go through the lecture demo on chapter 2. And so chapter 2, I've included a lot of screenshots here, because I think it's helpful to see pictures. Keep in mind that the screenshots are off of my computer system. This is my desktop system here. The server name is the computer name. And then this one you can see is my laptop. So on my laptop, my server name is the laptop name. So it just depends on what computer you're on. We cover how to attach and detach database objects. So any database that is attached, you're going to see under databases. Detached databases are databases that are on your computer, but they're not displayed in SSMS. Okay, and the steps to attach and detach. And you may think, why would I ever want to detach a database? Well, a good reason would be if you have a lot of databases, maybe you're only going to work on a couple of them. There is no reason to have all of them displayed. We also get into doing backups. Obviously, backups of a database are important because if you have a disaster and your hard drive is damaged or you lose data, having a backup becomes important because you can restore your system. So the backups that come with SSMS are full, deferential, and transaction log. There are other types of backups that you can do. So this file group backup and restore is another type of backup. And the reason that I included it here is because this is something that is an objective on your certification exam. So understanding this type of backup and restore is important. And just because it's not built into SSMS, it doesn't mean that we can't use it, because SSMS uses T-SQL. Any T-SQL command we can actually manually enter and use. So even though it's not available in the menu, we could still do this type of backup and restore. Once you get done going through the key points, and you'll see there's quite a bit of information in here. Probably the most important information for you right now is how to view the tables, how to view database columns, data types, and keys. Okay, how to tell what's a primary key or a foreign key. How to rename columns. Maybe how to change table columns and settings. But basically, what I want you to know is how to access the information that is in SSMS. Okay, so make sure you read through all of this. Database diagrams are really important, and we are going to be using them quite a bit. because they basically tell you how the tables are related. So they give you an idea of your schema. And they can be generated really easily in SSMS. In fact, it's a very powerful feature that they did take out of one version of SSMS, and there was quite an uproar in the community, and they added the feature back in. So it tells you how popular that feature is. As you read through here, you'll just kind of get an idea of how SSMS is laid out and how you can access the data. Then you're going to go into chapter 2, textbook assignment. So this textbook assignment ensures that you know how to use SSMS. That is the whole purpose of this assignment. And so you'll notice that there are videos that go with the different tasks. The only one that doesn't have a video is task 3, because that is the one that you're supposed to do on your own. However, task 3 is very similar to the other tasks. So by the time you get to task 3, you should have a pretty good idea of what you're doing. Okay, so this is the assignment that goes with that chapter. And then once you are done with the assignment, you can go ahead and upload it to the Dropbox. And when you create this particular assignment, it's going to be a Word document. But the Dropbox can handle SQL files as well. So for this one, it's going to be a Word document. But most of the assignments that you upload are going to be SQL files. Okay, so you'll add to that Dropbox and submit it. And then you'll move on to chapter 3. And this is kind of an important chapter because the select command is the command that we will be using from this point through the end of the semester. And it is the command that allows you to see the data that's in your tables. And so we get into the syntax of how you put that command together. And really the only portion of this command that is really required would be obviously the word select and whatever columns you want to see. And then you have to tell it from whatever table you are accessing the data from. So that is required. The where clause and the order by clause are optional. The where clause lets you kind of filter rows. So instead of seeing all of them, you only see the rows that match your criteria. And order by is used to sort. You'll notice that at the top we have use database name because in SSMS, you have to tell it what database you are accessing because your table is within a database. And you'll notice that use database has a semicolon because that is one command. And select is another command. So after you've keyed in select and all the different clauses, that is where you put the semicolon. So all of this is one command and this is one command. And I do think it is super helpful to practice commands online. So I have links to a site you can go to while you're kind of going through this. And you can kind of run it as is. So this is going to show you everything from the customer table. Okay, so you'll see all of the rows and all of the columns. And if you wanted to limit the columns, instead of the asterisk, you can key in, let's see, customer name. We'll do city and country. Okay, and then it looks like it's organized by customer name. So why don't we throw in an order by city? So now we're going to sort it by city. And then we can even throw in a where here, where country equals, we'll say equals UK. And you can see how the where clause filtered. Now, if I want to comment that out, I just put a couple minus signs in there. And I'm back to seeing everything. Okay, so this is kind of a fun way to kind of play around. And, you know, if you mess up, you just have to reload the page. Then we have a distinct clause that you can use to get rid of duplicates. The top clause will give you whatever number of rows that were displayed first. Okay, where clause you already saw a little bit because that is used to filter, but these are the different operators that you use with the where clause. Then we get into logical operators, which basically lets you have multiple conditions in the where clause. And this works like regular programming. So if we do the and clause, it's basically going to look first through everything and look for Germany. And then from that, it's going to look and extract out the cities that are in Berlin. And there only happens to be one. So, and you can kind of change this, you know, if you wanted to play around with it. Or actually, if we go back into this one, if we change this, we're going to get a lot more rows because it'll give us everything that had a country of Germany. And then it's also going to give us anything with the city of Berlin. So I would expect additional cities in Germany, which is what we see. The not syntax is not something that you are going to use all that often. We can try it here. Oops, it did not like that. Okay, so where I said we're not city Berlin, so then looking through here, we should not see any cities that are Berlin. Null values are a little different. Basically, a null means nothing. So it is a column that has no data in it. It's not a space. It's not a zero. It's just nothing. Okay, so when people were entering the data, they just skipped it because there was nothing to enter. The like operator is used with the where clause. If maybe you can't remember a customer's name or how to spell something, you can use like. And then the percentage represents multiple characters. Okay, the underscore only represents one character. So we go back to this. Why don't we say where city, like, and let's see, why don't we have San? So it starts with San. We do not care what it ends with. Okay, so I've got 2 of those. And if we wanted to do a little something else, we could say we don't care what it starts with, and it shouldn't end with an O. Okay, so that's kind of how like works. And then between allows you to do 2 different values. So this would be more appropriate for numeric. Okay, so this is price between 10 and 20. And we talked about order by is for sorting. And offset and fetch, we actually use a little bit more on, near the end of the semester when we are doing a lot more with scripting. But it actually allows you to retrieve 1 row at a time or a certain number of rows. So fetch first 10 rows will only display 10. Offset actually jumps forward 50 rows. So in something like this, where we have a lot of rows, let's get rid of the criteria. And let's say, all right, so we have lots and lots of rows, 91. Let's tell it fetch first 10 rows only. We'll see if that works. Oh. Oh, let's see. It might not like this. Sometimes we can't do whatever commands we want in here because it's coded differently. I'll try next. Okay. Yeah, so it doesn't like that in here, but it will work in SSMS. Let me see if offset works. Let's say offset 10 rows. We'll know right away. Yeah, this isn't going to work either because it's not the right color. But as you can see, when you run it in SSMS, see how the colors kind of change? It will work in here. Now in SSMS, in addition to retrieving named columns, you can actually perform a calculation and show the result in a column. And if you use the alias feature, you can actually give that column a name. So let's come over here. I think they have a products. Do they have a products? Yeah. Let's display everything from products. And we have a price. And let's say we're going to multiply the price by 10 and have that be a column. Okay, so why don't we display the product name and the price. And then we're going to do price times 10 as total price from products. Okay, so you can do little calculations in here too. And if you use as, you can give it an alias. Okay, so I do encourage you guys to go to these interactive sites and play with them. The worst thing that's going to happen is it's not going to run, which isn't going to hurt anything. After you finish, then you're going to go in and do the assignment. And there are videos for every single task. Okay, so these exercises have little scenarios, and then I do kind of help you out with some of them, and the video will actually walk you through how to do it. So if you have a mobile device or you have two monitors, what works really well is playing the video on one of the monitors or on your mobile device and executing the instructions on the computer while you're watching the video, because you can pause the video, and that is probably the fastest way to get this done. Once you are done, you will notice that you are directed to save the file. Here is where you will be saving it. It will be a SQL file, which is fine. Okay. And you will upload that SQL file to the Dropbox. I did include just a couple of additional information items on using the like operator and wildcard characters, just in case you were a little confused about them after going through the chapter. Additional information down here, this is kind of for your own information. None of it is required, but the terms that are at the end of the chapter, I did define them for you. So there's PDFs on those. The slideshows that come with the chapters, I have also included here. In one of the chapters, it talks about using the ties clause. This is not a clause that we are really going to be utilizing, but if you're curious to see what it does, I included that. And for all of the commands that we have used, if you want more practice, you can go to W3 Schools SQL tutorial. These are the ones that we have covered so far, and you can get more practice. Okay, so you can see if you wanted more practice on and, or, and not, you can select that one. And here's just some additional information on all of that. Okay, and then there's the try it yourself exercises. If you run into problems this week, or if you have any questions at all, let me know, and have a great week.